Lokshin actually is like a prison. It holds you back. And to get out of a lokshin, it takes so much of strength and energy. And once you're out and you do something successful, you'll see your life changes. But once you're inside, it sort of shukumezes you. It keeps you there. Because that whole environment is very oppressive. And because you have, yes, you might be comfortable living at home. You panda here and there, ikoten yanla,
Yes.
weekends, hlala makonen, you know, someone, Grootman is working, will say, hey, here's 2 or 3 drinks. But that environment actually keeps people down. We have destroyed too much talent in this country. Too much. And this influence of all coaching styles, you know, England, Germany, Holland, it actually moshed our football because we don't have identity now. Learn what you can here about, you know, the principles and all of that, but don't copy and try to play like the Dutch or the German or whatever. I brought in guys like Keegan Dolly, Sienda Kulu, Jabu Shongwe, a lot of players that I brought. Yeah, many people don't know. Myself, Brian Baloy, and the top sponsorship guy, Skuli Kumede. We're the ones who took the Hollywood Bets deal to SAFA. I think as society, we need to come together. Asiyekele umona, yabona. Umona is killing us.
Yeah, ebafethu Junior Thabo Khanye, amfana sevuthani again 1529 so humble always. Thank you for your support mfethu siyabona nama subscriber we're almost on 10K now. Imagine we started 2 months 3 months ago. Thank you for the support ngoba umuntu ngabantu, we are human because of you. So humble, we thank God and our ancestors and everybody in my team behind. Yeah, KHANYE, I need to mention them as well. Yeah, don't forget hashtag World Sport Betting, hashtag Bet with the best. Junior KHANYE KHOHLWA. Namanje, today I've got the one and the only, the mastermind. Somebody that was always behind. But some people, they seeing him time to time, especially on TV. He will explain, actually. I can't explain. So today, I think I've got the one. It's like a father also figure to me. I can put it that way. And I knew him long ago, but today I think he need to tell him people that who is he, where he's come from, his journey. So Junior KHANYE Pete, coach Sudesh Singh, mastermind. Coach, how are you?
June,
How are you, coach?
it's humbling introduction, and I'm always here for you. A pleasure to be here.
Yes. Coach, without wasting time, the reason we call you here, coach, we are here to celebrate you. Some people, they don't know much about you, and we can't falter them. But me, I know who's Coach Sudesh, and the knowledge, man. But people, I think they need to hear from themselves. I called you here, coach, because we invited you. Let me put it that way. We invited you because of you are one of the best for me. I remember Coach Ted introduced me to you. But as I'm saying, the Lord, people will hear. Before we can waste time, coach, I want to introduce yourself. Who's Coach Sudesh? Where do you come from? Yes. And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, Junior, it's truly humbling, you know, to listen to these kind words, and it makes me emotional, you know, because I've always got time for you. Your journey is something that touches my heart, and whenever you call or message, I drop everything and come, you know, because you're a special person, you know, not just
Thank you.
on the field, off the field, you're even more special as a human being, you know.
Thank you, coach.
And I think that's what, not just football, you know, the country, humanity needs good people more and more, because we can see the way the world is going.
Yes.
So for you, yeah, your journey and where you've been, where you've come from, and where you are now, I mean, we can only applaud that, you know. Us guys, we just humble ourselves and try to push and encourage
Thank you, coach.
future generations to come, you know.
Yes, thank you, Coach. Much appreciated. It's such a humbling words from you. Yeah, I just want to find out, Coach, who's Coach Sudesh? Where does the Coach Sudesh come from? Coach Sudesh, obvious. Those are the questions that I can start with.
Yeah, I think many people don't know. I'm also an East Rand boy like you. I was actually born in Germiston, the old Lokshin there. Now I think it's called Dikatole.
Oh,
But back in the day, it was the old Lokshin mixed race, all of that.
was it?
Because my mom comes from Benoni, Actonville.
Oh, yeah.
And then my dad comes from Newcastle in KZN.
Okay.
So I was born in Germiston, spent my early years there, but went to school in Newcastle.
Was it?
And then Newcastle, I don't know whether I would say football beat me or football took over me. From a young age, started playing. And at that time, you must know, apartheid era, we're living in different areas. But I think football is our thing that opened my mind because I started playing in Lokshin, Matateni, Osizweni, So I grew up with guys like Fani Matida, Sizwe Mtaung, them Kelele brothers, Hellman's elder brothers. We all played together. And I think Lokshin and football combined sort of opened my eyes and opened my heart, to say the future of South Africa could be different. And this was way back in the 80s when, we were still separated by apartheid. So I owe my life and who I am and what I am to Ebola. The game is what gave me who I am.
I understand.
So for me, I'll always be grateful for the bug of football
Yes.
that beat me and took me away. And I don't have any regrets on that,
Yeah, Coach, as far as I heard, you started this game long ago, and I didn't know that you played the game actually.
Yeah, those days there was, I don't know, when we do coaching courses and I explain to younger coaches, there used to be 3 professional leagues those days because of the racial issues. There was NPSL, there was NFL for Abalungu, there was Federation for Indian and Coloreds. So I first played in the Federation. It was called FPL. And then that time we had guys like, obviously, Brakeza, Abdul Bamji, Cyril Kobus. They were already thinking of how to change football before apartheid was finished. And then they told us, no, leave the Federation, come to NPSL because in a year or two, things are going to change. So we left the Federation. My team was Newcastle Dynamos. We left the Federation, we came to NPSL. NPSL had 2 leagues that time, the NPSL and the Zambak League. They said, for now, play in the Zambak League, and then when the leagues join, you guys will be up there. So from Newcastle, it was us and a team called Newcastle First 11. First 11 had a player, I'm sure, maybe you were young, but Mbazo Kamanga. He played for Pirates, great player. So Newcastle had a hotbed of talent, there was a time where there were like 6 or 7 players in the national team. Innocent Mwango, Sizwe Mtaung, Fani Matidas, There was even, I played with the Mlungu keeper, Paul Evans. He was a goalkeeper.
It fits.
Yeah, he was also from Newcastle.
That's it.
So the thing with me, I had an injury very early on because I played in the OK League at that time. For Newcastle Dynamos, I came to Joburg, back to Joburg. I played for Fortsburg Dynamos. And then I had a serious knee injury. And coaching was the way to go, And that was my first experience with Ted. He became the technical director at SAFA. There were a group of coaches that they were bringing together. It was called Cecil Coach the Coaches. And SAFA was working together with the KNVB, the Holland Football Association. So they took about 200 coaches from all over the country. And the aim was to select the best 9 or 10 to go and study in Holland. And when we come back to become coach instructors and stuff like that. So over a period of a year, they cut down from 200, 150, and then eventually there were 10 of us selected. And this was not done by SAFA or TED. It was done by coaches from Holland who came, So that's how I got closer and closer to Ted. Ted sees that, no, this young man, he loves the game and he's different-minded. And at that time, the country was even more fragmented, different races. So even at these coaching courses, you would see coaches coming with different ideas because of how the society was. But like I was always, as I said, Nkulil Lokshin mina because of football. So I was always with the black coaches and the style of football because I believe, this is our South African identity. Our skill, creativity forms the basis of everything. So we need to embrace it, So basically, that's how the journey started from playing, early injury, went into coaching, and then we go on and on and on.
Yeah. Coach, I'm going to just come in there and go. I'm going to take you back, especially when you said you played at Newcastle. If you played in Newcastle.
Dynamos, yeah.
I know you understand Zulu.
Yeah,
Kuluma. I know people, they don't know that.
Yeah.
At Newcastle, you mentioned Abu Mkelele. Mention Abu Sizwe Mntango, Mapete.
Yeah.
Cosmos.
Vincent
Playmaker. Vincent Sokela. Pushbacks. Yeah. So clearly there was talent there.
Absolutely.
Did you play with those guys? Same
Yeah,
team?
that was a group. In fact, the bigger group who we grew up under was the late Samora Kulu, Junior and Jela. That was our elders. And then this group, Abofani, Sizwe Mtaung, Helman's bigger brother, Super, those were the guys we all played with. Innocent Nwango, Mbazo Kamanga. That was the group of guys that I grew up with, So you could see the kind of players I'm talking about. They were really, really great players from the greater area of Newcastle, Danhausen, Dundee, Numbit, that area there, northern KZN.
Yeah.
Huge talent pool there,
Yeah, Coach, I can hear.
Siyabonga Nkosi, I used to coach him when he was a young boy. And then he grew up, back in Newcastle. So it's players like that. Justice Tole, he later played for Chiefs.
Yes, I played with him.
They were younger boys, and when I started becoming a coach, I was coaching the provincial squad. Those days, they used to have inter-provincial tournaments, at SAFA. So I used to be the under 16, under 17, under 20 provincial coach. So it was boys like Justice, Siyabonga Nkosi. So there was a pathway, playing with the guys like Fanny, Sizwe, Hellman, those group of players, and then graduating to coaching. And another group of good young talent came out from the Newcastle area.
Yeah, Coach, credit to God for blessing that province with the talent, their ancestors.
Amadlozi, we have to bonga all the time.
Yeah, Coach, people, they don't understand. Imagine you, people, when they see you, imagine you, Coach, praising ancestors and mentioning before me, I can mention. And I've listened to you several times. You mention Amadlozi.
Junior, I think, people don't realize, like, South Africa is special. There's so much special. And I think this is where, amongst races, people don't know about each other. Like in the culture I grew up in, Hindu culture, we also kritikazi once every 2 or 3 years to thank Madlozi. It's a normal thing. So normally in our culture, it's the father and the sons. So that the bloodline always carry, because, Amatomazan, they get married, they go out. But the sons, they keep the bloodline, they keep the family name. So always we grow up doing that thing. My father used to do it. He passed on. My elder brother is still in Newcastle. He does it once every 2 or 3 years. And then I go and join him when he does it, things like that. So I think it's very important, Madlozi, because we look at it not just football. As human beings, we come from somewhere, We didn't just fall from the sky. We come from somewhere. So we've got to be grateful for those people who brought us into this world. You know?
Yeah, also they communicate with God. But hey, I coach, can I say something? Anyway,
We don't judge others.
we thank them and we wish them even the
Yeah.
nabo. Yabo ngendlela I wish uNkulunkulu ababonise because I believe they communicate with God time to time. I'm a believer of
Sure.
ancestors too much. Being a believer, I believe as well. Very educational, whatever you said, profound as well. So, coach, going back, I need to. Yabo, clearly, I was going to ask who was the best player in that team that you played for. Did you play that team? As you said, I can hear you played the same team, Mkelele, Sizwe, Mngango, Kamanga. That team, coach, I need to be honest and ask the question. Did that team play the league? And what kind of a league that team played for? And also, when you watch those players playing with in the same team, did you saw the potential of those players that they will make it in a longer way? I'm talking about the future. You believed that those players, the way you were watching them, that they will make it in the top flight football, or you just had this thing. They are good, Bamnandi, but they will never make it. It's a question.
No, I think that's a good question, but when you mentioned there were so many players, obviously we first played in the Federation Professional League, where it was Manning Rangers, Cape Town Spurs, teams from Joburg were Swaraj, Bluebells. There, I think I experienced playing with one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. He's a guy called Cyril Masala from Dundee. That was there. And then when we came to NPSL and OK League, the team changed name to Chippers Dynamos. And that's where guys like, many people don't know, Sizwe started out as a striker. And he used to bang in goals in the second division. Yeah. He used to score goals. I remember one year, I think in the second division we were playing, he scored over 40 or 50 goals, So you could see he was special, something special. Then you look at players like Innocent Mwangu, Vincent Sokela. Fanny was a winger, very speedy. He wasn't a striker. Those days he was very young. He was younger than me. Mkelele's bigger brothers. They were exceptional players, Obviously, I mentioned the late Samora Kulu, Junior Njela. There was a guy who played for us in that era called Drepa Mukwena. He played also for Wanderers. Exceptional, skillful, One game I know we played a team from Durban, Leeds United, the colored guys from Durban, Chiza Baptist and them. And in the penalty area, because it was tight and marked, he lifted the ball up onto the knee, from the knee onto the head, and he found a spot in the goal, and he headed it there. Something like no one has ever seen in their life doing that. I mean, who would think in a penalty area, you lift the ball, you take her with the knee, you lift it to the head, and he directed it into the far corner. So it was skill like that. There's so many players and the skillfulness. I think of a young Siobong Nkosi, he was on another level. But when you talk about players that, yes, I played with and against, I think to me one of the best talents, not only in South Africa, in the world that I've seen, and he later became a very close friend, was the late Shoes Mosho. So when we were playing in the OK League, I was at Dynamos, he was at Giant Blackpool. And that time we had moved back to Joburg, although I was still playing for Dynamos. So I used to train with them. Blackpool used to train in Terfontein. So in the week, I used to train with them, and then weekends go and play in Newcastle, And Shoes and I connected. We became very close. But Junior, on the field, I think when he played later on with you guys, the Chiefs or what, that was still coming to the end of their career. But I've never seen a player like that. When I look at from before my playing days, the greatest player I had seen was also late Ace Nseleng. Ace was on another level. I put Shoes on that level, but Shoes, I think, if the world or Chiefs had taken him a bit earlier, or if he had went abroad a bit earlier, Shoes would have been a world-class player. Shoes had everything. He had skill, he had the brain, he had the conditioning. He could move when he wanted to. He was just on another level. And then what made him even special off the field, you know him. He was such an intelligent guy, calm, humble, amazing human being. So to me, I think I would put like players that I played with and against, the best was obviously Shoes Mosho. If I look at from young growing up and players that I'd grown up watching, it's got to be Ace and Seleng. So those would have been to me world class players. And I always tell people like it's a pity South Africa of apartheid was banned from World Cup. I believe in the 60s and 70s we possibly could have put a team together that would challenge to win the World Cup. When you hear people like Kalamazoo, Makoni, the late who passed away now, Modimo Ball, yeah, masterpieces Morib, Chipa Molo, the list goes on. Bra Sugar Ray Kulu. We had great players, Brake himself. Brake was on another level. Brajay. So you look at those groups of players, I definitely think if there was no apartheid, apartheid damaged us too much. People just think economically, socially, whatever. But I think sporting-wise, it hit us very, very hard. Because these guys never got a chance to really play at the global level, as a national team. Even you had some good Mlungus there, at that time also. So we were robbed of those things.
Yeah, Coach, I can hear you are so deep now, and and you just giving us. I think I've never thought you'll be so deep, and clearly you had so many players that played with you and played against you that you saw that those players, they will make it, if I can put it that way. And as you said, Shoes was something else, but he was your opponent. And also you saw Sizwe Mdangu, as you said, he was a striker. He scored maybe 40 goals or 50 in one season. I never thought Sizwe he was a striker. And Coach, I'm going to ask this question because I heard you mentioning development, and I know that you're a believer in development. Those players, as you are speaking now, they never been developed properly. I'm talking about Sizwe. I don't think there was time by that, as you're speaking about the apartheid, Sizwe Mkhelele, Fani Matita, what is Mkamazo. Don't you think it's a question, Coach? Those players, if they were so developed, like you see 2000s players, I'm talking about 95, 98, I'm not too sure. Coach Ted told me that development started late. I think it's the one who introduced school.
Yeah.
Don't you think if those players, they were developed, South Africa, it was going to be on another level, because they were going to go abroad probably, and will format a team with those type of players playing international with the experience and the talent with proper development that you could beat anyone. Don't you think the development on their, I'm talking on their journey, plays a part to never reach their full potential? It's a question, Coach.
Yeah, I think that question, we've got to look at it both ways. I also believe sometimes because of lack of good coaching, it's better that there are no coaching. Let the players just play. Because I think at development level or youth level, I think coaches without knowledge, they actually do more damage. So those days we all grew up, even yourself, and you talk about those players. I don't even know who was my coach. I know one time there was somebody who was a headmaster at school in Mateten, but he didn't know much. In the week, he'll make us run like crazy. Weekend, he'll say, Dlala Bafwet, So I think without knowledge, we rather let players play because we damage them. But now the world is evolving. Yabon Manje, there's cameras, there's podcasts, what. We're not sitting under Tunzi in there by the tree and talking. So it's evolution. So the thing that moshes us now in South Africa and Africa is the lack of good coach education. It's so hard to get good youth coaches because the coaches now, it's about winning, it's about camera, it's about themselves, it's no more about the players.
Yes.
And that's what's killing, and we are outspoken on that, and people don't like us for talking about that. There is coach education, they'll talk about A license, B license, what. But those licenses are not doing the work. The other day, a friend of mine from Tanzania, he called because they signed the big club, the Younger, they signed Ramovich. And when they were going to sign him, I know the boss very well. I said, hey, you guys are making a mistake. They said, no, this guy, what. And Kamondi was there. Kamondi is a good coach for me. Now they lost in the Champions League the other day at home. That guy, the chairman's best friend, is a big business guy. He was in Nigeria. He calls me. He says, hey, coach, you were right about this guy. I said, but I told you guys. He says, no, looks like we made it. Because this guy came with a UEFA pro license. What? I said he's been here for 3 years, South Africa. What has he achieved? He keeps complaining, no, Galaxy are selling the best players. But as a coach, you must work and show what you can do. Angit. Now you go into the big club. Yanga is a big club.
Yes, in Tanzania, yes.
And you're playing at home. Yashula, the first game. And the players already are in disarray. So it comes back to what I say, Junior. Firstly, we need to believe in ourselves as Africans. We need to empower each other. But also sometimes us guys, us coaches, we mosher because it's about ourselves, our egos. We don't want to listen. If Junior says something, you're going to have a more now. We're going to hate each other. Even the other night in the studio, one of my colleagues will say, hey, Sudesh, you said something there, Mina, at PSL level, I can't say it because the coaches will hate us. I said, but how do we build each other? Right? Yes. We have to be honest. Yes. We can't be always sugarcoating and just to say, because if you can see something's wrong, and that's why I think people respect you and like you, because you say it as it is. Sometimes you can be wrong, sometimes you can be right, but you say what you feel. And I think that's what's missing firstly in football, in society, is honesty. Going back to Ted, when we had the very, very first course in the 90s in School of Excellence at Esalen Park, and he wrote on the blackboard a word there. Many people didn't see it. After 2 or 3 days, I asked him, Coach, why did you write that word and you kept quiet? He says, no, I wanted to see all these guys. Who's going to ask me, what is that word? What does it mean? And you know what was that word? Just a simple word. Honesty was written there. So after 3 days, only I asked, and the rest of the coaches, they used to see it and they thought, it's just written on the board. And then he explained, he says to the coaches, to be a coach or to be a good person, if there's no honesty within you, how are you going to be a good coach? How are you going to tell a player, today you can't play because I feel 1, 2, 3. Or if players who come for assessment or trial, and you can say, but no, you can't kill him and say, you're useless or what. You have to turn him away. Yes. So if you're not honest, and you're not honest with yourself, how are you going to be honest with the players, So that thing, I think, stuck in my head for, it's what now, over 30 years.
Yes.
So it's that kind of thing, that you got to grow up with certain kind of values, and not just be mena. Today you say this, tomorrow is this.
Yes. Yeah, Coach, whatever you're saying is so deep. And honestly, people, they don't, even now, me, Coach, Mina nami, to tell the truth, I grew up this way. Mina, mhlambe coach Ted called me aside. He was like a father, futhi uyazi. Yeah. I remember, begano kuhlala namphansi. The senior players, they are complaining about you, about shoes, about Brian and stuff, yabo. And also the technical team. Because coach, I would be perfect. I had so many mistakes, I admit. I don't want to point fingers. But whatever happened, if it didn't happen to me, big millions are yabo. So Ted used to tell me, Gucci, the way you are approaching things, you find players now, and those are senior players, they've done a lot for the team, but it's the talent that we're having. Coach Ted used to do example 1v1 penalties, kick, maybe coach, but even me outspoken, I think that kills. Just to go back, coach, being summarize coach, I see you always a believer of and you know, if ngihlale ngibukela ishow yakho ku SuperSport, you know so many African players, and even Europe, ngikhuluma abroad, some players, when I listen to you, you know the names. And I mean, ayicalanga manje yabo. Why, ngifuna ukwazi coach, why do you know African players, the names, and also the team? As you say now, you're mentioning the business person was Tanzania. The relationship onayo. It clearly we should abroad or in Africa you've got the relationship. That's my question number one. Why do you have the knowledge for African players and African teams? Because you're doing African football at SuperSport. And I hear you are so fluid when you talk. Some people there, mangi show I be balance, but you are the one, honestly. And secondly, what's the difference between African players, other countries in Africa, and our players in South Africa? I just want to find out, coach, those two questions.
Well, I think it's like any job you do, and football is played all over the world. So if you're into football, you play in the industry, you work in the industry, you must know about the industry. We don't live on an island, Yabon. So we need to know about South Africa is part of Africa. Firstly, we need to know about African football. Then global football, TV has influenced us, EPL, La Liga. But back in the day, we never had those things. So we were all hooked on Brazilian football because their style and their culture is similar to South African. But we never used to see the games on TV. Africa, what opened my mind is when I was at Sundowns with Ted, we started the academy 2008. By 2010, the academy was okay. They were going to Mnandi, Zippo, Dlangalala was there, Dan Malisela. Remember, they went to play in the Nedbank Cup. They beat Platinum Stars. Then I had a discussion with the boss at that time, Patrice Motsepe. He says, you know what, the academy is going well. Come back to Chlorkop, because remember the academy was based in Potchefstroom, Park Tawana. So he says, come back here, organize the scouting, and let's see how we take the club, you know. Because I was very close with him. We used to have meetings at his house. I was living in Sandton. He'll call me 1 hour before the meeting, you know. What do you think, how we should do things? And he was like fixed on the Barcelona model. He wanted that structure from youth to first team, playing good Mnandi football. Then I said, no, let's also organize the scouting section and the international scouting. So it was Brad Trott was there, Harris Shaw, Alex Papella. So they were doing the local scouts. So I told the boss, no, let me start up international scouting. So I started around looking the good players. Obviously, the country is close by, Zimbabwe, wherever. I knew players. That's why I brought Nyasha Mushekwi, Method Mwanjali. And then I started going further in. I had network around the continent, went to Nigeria, Ghana, all of that. So that's how the passion started, you know. But it's something that, like with football, I always want to know what's happening in other countries, other continents, so that we keep ahead of the game. You know, if we only focus here, we don't know what's going on and we don't know how to improve.
Yes.
So basically that's, and football is my passion. Then, you know, I went to go and work in Asia, in Vietnam. So there I had seen also, because you meet a lot of foreign coaches, and they were amazed that it's a coach from Africa who's coaching here. So we're sitting with these, like we used to get together once a month for dinner. Coaches from Portugal, Australia, England, Brazil, just get together and share ideas. And they say, but you come from Africa. We've never heard of a coach from Africa. So, you know, that passion also started. And even there in Vietnam, the club that I went to coach eventually, we had 4 foreign players, 2 Brazilian, 2 African players. So they had sacked the coach, and the boss was friends with the boss of that club. He says, hey, please, man, help me with your coach. So I went there, and the first day, the 2 African players were saying, hey, these 2 Brazilians are asking, coach from Africa, what does he know? What? After 2 days, Junior, that Brazil, there was one guy, very senior guy, Robson. He played in Portugal, Japan. He was about 33, 34, coming to the end of his career. After 2 days, he came, he says, coach, there's no difference between you and the Brazilian. Our training is now Mnandi. These Mlungus make us run and too much tactics. So it's football, you know, that brings people together. And for me, that's what, as I said earlier on, through our ancestors, they put me on the line of the game. But also when you look at my family in Benoni used to have a football club called Berea Park. My father's family in Newcastle had a club, Stella's Football Club. So football was in Igazi, yabon.
Yeah. No, coach, I can hear you. And I still want to find out this question I'm going to ask again. What's the difference between us and African players? I'm talking about South African players and Africa, because why I'm asking this, coach, African players, I had a conversation with one player that was playing for Nigeria. I think it was 10 years ago. He said, Junior, us, we sometimes take a single flight. As namali. We don't have money for food. We don't have money for hotel. We go single knowing that we're going to sign.
Yeah.
Junior, you guys are now but with the talent that we're having. So, ngifuna just to ichaze, man, coach, because this is.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good question. I hope I don't get into trouble because I experienced that personally when I went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
I had taken 2 players who were free here. One used to play for Pirates, one was playing, I think, for Classic or what. They were out of contract. I took them to Vietnam. They trained for a while. So our club already had some Brazilians. And then the boss liked them. He says, no, for a season, let's loan them out to other clubs, and then we'll see next season. So the guys were there 2-3 weeks. One was complaining about Shisilanga, the food, the language, and he wanted to go home. And I said, I won't mention his name because he's a very popular guy. I said, you're going to go back, Lokshin, stay in the back room. And now you've played for big clubs in South Africa. Here you're going to earn some decent money and you'll rebuild yourself. He says, no, thanks a lot, and what, and he left. So it comes back to what you were saying. The other day, I don't know if you've seen a comment by Ribeiro of Sundowns.
Yes.
He says, South Africa's got so many talented players. What is the problem? And I don't know, maybe you might agree with this or others, but I think the fact in South Africa, yes, apartheid did a lot of damage psychologically. Psychologically, it's a lot. People don't realize. And it goes on generation after generation. And especially the black male. People put a lot of attention on female and building society, but they don't look at the boy child, the black boy child. He's been oppressed so much, made to feel less of a man. And these things affect him in so many ways. You know what you've been through before, and you know how few people were there for you. Mm-hmm. So I think also with South African society, and I'm talking about the majority of the players are black players. Yes, you'll get a few colored or white players. And when you look at it, we did a research once with the late Ted. The players, South African players who made it abroad for a length of time in those days, late 90s, early 2000s, were the so-called colored players. You look at Benny, Quinton, Stephen Pinar, those ones. They stayed there for years. The only exception was Lucas and Shoes. Mm. So we look deeper into these things. You know how Ted was. He liked to do research and study.
Master Ted.
And it comes back to society. It's like, I think the way, what it is to grow up in Lokshin. Mm. Lokshin actually is like a prison. It holds you back. And to get out of a Lokshin, it takes so much of strength and energy. And once you're out and you do something successful, you see your life changes. But once you're inside, it sort of shukumezas you. It keeps you there. Because that whole environment is very oppressive. And because you might be comfortable living at home. You panda here and there. Yes. Weekends, someone, Grootman is working, will say, hey, here's 2 or 3 drinks. But that environment actually keeps people down. Yeah. Then you have Imona. Your friends will tell you, Junior, forget about that. You're going to go that side. What kind? The language, the weather, all that. So those things going, there's no one positive to say, Junior, go for it. Don't worry about anything. We will support you. So, the whole societal structure it holds us back. And then we come, like rightfully what you said, players from other African countries. When I was in Asia, I used to see Nigerian players everywhere. You know, some guys come there for trials. One agent brought 10 guys. He left them, he ran away. Those guys were sleeping in the park. So me and some of the other African players who were playing, or they were playing, and so we used to help them out, you know, now and again. But you can only help so much. Sometimes buy them food, you know, those things. Eventually, hlanganisa imali, and some guys said they can't handle it anymore. We help them with their ticket back home. But that's one or two. The others from that country, you don't know how they'll move to other countries. So it's that hunger. And same with Brazilian. The Brazilian guys I had in my team, one, Clayton, he was playing in the second or third division in Brazil. The team was semi-pro. He says in the day, his job was to work. They were making roads, you know, to dig in the roads.
Yeah.
So he says, football is my life. Now I'm coming here, I'm earning $10,000. It's like heaven, you know. Where I was at home, I was not even earning $500. Now I'm earning $10,000. I play football, which I love. My family is taken care of. So you look at it, the Brazilians and the rest of African players, they have that hunger, that passion to go out, because football is a way out, not just for them. It's their family and their society around them. So I don't think we look at it like that. Also, I think in South Africa, we get comfortable. Our players, they sign a contract, NFD or PSL, you get 50, 70,000. Mnandi. You go and buy a GTI. After training, Chisanyama, Amaslay Queens, Nyana there, and then you think you have arrived, you know. Your performance drops after 1 or 2 years. That PSL club say, no, we don't want you. You drop to NFD. 1 season there, and then 3-4 seasons, you're out. You can't find a player now in PSL. Maybe he's there 10 years, but he doesn't even have 500 games. Or even 200 games. So surely something is wrong, you know. But it's the whole system. It's not just, you know, there's no support system. When a player signs a contract, the family or friends, the agents are just there to sign the contract, tatimali, and then they don't see you again. When next year the contract is renewed, now and again they'll send you a pair of boots or whatever. The clubs also, I feel, especially in South Africa, the club should actually go an extra mile, you know. To educate players, help them. We were in Spain with Ted. We went to Barcelona, Real Madrid. Real Madrid, when they have their second team players and they're already on a professional contract, before they even promote to the first team, there's already in that contract a clause, a certain percentage of your salary is taken and put into investment. If you and your family don't agree, they say, okay, we don't want the player. So it's there so that you know later on, after you retire or what, you have something, you know. And then there's education all the way, how to invest your money. The cars, when you start as a young player, they say, you must start with a Polo or a Taz or something. You can't just go to BMW, high performance cars, you know. So it's a process, like how development is. Life also is a process. But you need people around you, you know, good people to advise you, support you. Not only when Junior is a star, now he signed for Chiefs, now all the friends, they come like that, you know.
Coach TV, knowledge. I mean, I know why. Maybe people, they don't understand why I talk about you. Yes. When I met you up with you, Coach, I remember I was young. But you're right, Coach, you people, they must hear. Not from me. And Coach, I'm going to ask this question. And who's inspired you to be, you were injured, obviously, you said the injury killed you. Who inspired you as a coach to become a coach? You had somebody that was a mentor to you, somebody that you looking up to, or you just, it's a question that I will want to ask.
Oh, that's a trick question because I never thought of it like that. But I think that time when I started the coaching journey, obviously in South Africa, the most successful coach at that time in the 80s was late Ted Dumitru. And I didn't know him. I remember when he was at Chiefs, his first stint, not the second stint when you were there. And they were playing a friendly Newcastle. And we had gone to the hotel to see Fanny because he grew up with us. So all the homeboys were excited. And then I met Ted in the lobby. And I think at that time in the paper, they said, no, they were looking for a defender. I think, what's the guy from Malawi? Jack Chamangwane was injured or what. And I was playing secondary. So I just went up to him. I didn't know this is Mlungu what. I said, Coach, I'm going to be the next one that Chiefs to come. He laughed. He said, okay, where are you playing? I said, no, OK League. He says, okay, we'll check it out. And then Ubra Ace was one of the scouts at Chiefs at that time. We were playing a game in Randfontein in the OK League. Ted actually sent Ace to come and watch that game, you know. And then he saw, after, I remember it was 3-2 or what we won. And he had a brief chat with me. We spoke. And then he left. I moved back to Joburg. And then I went to Swallows. I was living in Terfontein, as I told you. I was friends with this. There was a Mlungu goalkeeper at Swallows that time, Larry Park or something. So he knew about me. He says, no, come and train with us. Because Swallows were also training in a Portuguese club in Terfontein. But you must know that time they had Rodney Bush and they had a star-studded team, you know, Thomas Longwane and all these guys. But I trained for a long time. Then the coach was, what was the guy from South America, man? The old man also. So he at that time brought in those guys from South America, Eddie Companenico and Mario Varas and those things. So that's how it was. But I think the coaching I started taking serious after attending coaching courses under Ted. You must know by that time he was starting to pull away from coaching, but the knowledge and the direction, because he was, as you know, he was pro-African, pro-black, pro-skill, you know, everything that I thought how football should be played, you know. Because at that time, when we were young, we looked up to the Brazilians because that was our only excitement when they played in the World Cup. So to me, that's what football was about. Pele was my hero when I was still young. So coaching-wise, I think the influence that Ted has played initially as a role model, but then as a mentor, you know. And we became more than that. You know, he was like a friend, a big brother. We would talk about life, you know. You know him, we used to sit, like our wine, red wine, nice food, going out. And he had that balance in life. You know, many people don't know. We also used to go out to nightclubs and what, me and Ted. We used to go, when he was at Chiefs, I took him to some places in Soweto, where Konka is now. There used to be another place.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I forget what's the name of it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But where Konka is, we used to go there a couple of times, you know, weekend when he's off. We go and chill and have our own kind of fun, you know. So there was that thing. It wasn't just football. He was very, you know, wide person. And you learn a lot. I learned a lot from him, not just about football, but about life, you know. So I think that's what made a big influence on me. And then with the SAFA things, we were sent to study in Holland. And I got to meet one of the greatest coaches from that era was the great Rinus Michels. He's the one who started this Barcelona trend. Johan Cruyff took it over. And for me, you know, the other guys were a bit surprised. When we came back, they asked me, no, what did you learn in Holland, like from coaching? And I said, no, not much. They said, what? I said, yeah, there's nothing Mnandi in Holland, you know, there's no. And Rinus Michels, he spent one day with us and he says, you know what? It's good you guys are coming to watch us here and learn. But you guys are South Africans. Be the best you can. So you don't copy us. You know, the other guys who were part of this group, they didn't know where to look. Because they felt intimidated by Abalung. And they said, no, we must copy what Holland is doing. This. And he says, don't copy us. He says, I'm Dutch. I know my football better than you. But you know your football better than me. I can't tell you how to play football. Learn what you can here about, you know, the principles and all of that. But don't copy and try to play like the Dutch or the German or whatever. So that stuck in my mind. And this is the thing I think that has made South African football go backwards, because from that group of coaches that came in the 90s and it carried on, and this influence of all coaching styles, you know, England, Germany, Holland, it actually motioned our football because we don't have identity now. There's no identity. Last season, I think there was only one club that had something close to South African identity, was Sundown, when Rulani was there. Now, it's Sundowns-ish. You can't see much. Pirates, I'm starting to see something.
Yeah.
At least you got to give credit. And that's a foreign coach, Rivero. But look where he comes from. He comes from Spain, where they like playing football. But look how he's starting to play. You know, offensively, the two young boys plus Tito, they kill the opposition. I mean, to go away to play in Algeria, I was telling the guys in the studio, people don't know that's one of the biggest clubs in Algeria. And to go and play in North Africa in those conditions, and these two young boys, they played without fear. They run straight to the opposition and kill them. And that's what we need, you know, because that's what our skill and talent is.
Yeah, coach, learning a lot with life. There's a say we learn until you go 6 feet underground, but
Absolutely.
that's all about life. I think coach, going back and when you talk, I listen to interviews, even me when I met up with you. People, they don't know that the delay Sundowns when you fail. You are the one you were dealing with me in Skara behind the scene.
Yeah.
People of us. And I'm going to ask this. I heard you mention Alex Tawana, and you always said Alex Tawana. Coach, which team did you first? Why do you believe in so much development? I heard you spoke about structure, and I want to know what is the structure. I will ask that question. You believe in development? And secondly, which team basically you've coached in South African? I'm talking South Africa. I'm talking PSL, irrespective of its PSL or any level. And I just want to find out this question. One, you always emphasize in the structure, important of the technique and stuff. I want to find out why, and did you coach? How many teams in PSL you've coached, and what role you were playing there? Yeah, I just want to.
Yeah, I think the coaching side in South Africa has been a bit sad, but I've got to also give credit to the late Ted, because I first worked with him at Sundowns. I had two spells in Sundown. In the 90s, when they had that great team of Abo, Roger Futumba and all those guys. So I was coaching the B team. The B team was OJ Mabizela, Mares, Fifi, Tabang. Exceptional group of youngsters, if you know that group.
Tabang Ramobudi.
Yeah.
Conway.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you know, and Fifi, remember Fifi, the short one in the middle.
He was from school.
Yeah, that group from school, and then we brought them to Sundowns. That was our reserve team. OJ Mabizela, you know, Junior, for me, that would have been South Africa's first world-class player, OJ. You know, he had everything. He had the football brain, he had the composure, the technique, he was a leader. From that team, he was the youngest, but Ted and I decided to make him a bit more responsible. We made him the captain of that team. At that time, he was 16, 15, 16. The other guys were 17, 18. About Tabang, Fifi, Mares, and the rest. Dan Smake was part of that. Iwi Kambule, not the older one. Iwi, from Tembiza. Colin is now working at Sundowns. He was the goalkeeper, Colin Makanya. Yeah, so those were the guys.
Oh, the understanding, Colin, that's why it's like this.
Yeah.
It's got the understanding. Eh?
So those were the group of guys, and exceptional group. So Ted gave me that. So that was my first real test of coaching at a high level, you know. And then while I was coaching the reserve team, I used to do work for him behind the scenes. I used to go and analyze opposition and do stuff behind the scene, you know, check out who are the key players in opposition and sit with him and discuss those things. Then from there, obviously, I think South African football, we have this stigma from way back where there's stereotypes, you know, racial stereotypes, where people believe certain sports or certain jobs are for certain races, you know. So it was hard. And then when he went to Manning Rangers, he took me there. The reason he told those people at Rangers, the reason he took that job, because it's owned by Indian people and they had big ambitions to bounce back. 2 years before that, they had won the league with Gordon and all of that. And then they wanted strong development structure, but to make the team a big team. So he says, no, I'm only going to be here for a year or two, but I'm bringing you someone who is going to carry on with this legacy. They said, no, fine. And that's how I went. I was assistant coach there. But there were a lot of things behind the scenes that were not working out well, you know. And you know how Ted is, he doesn't like unprofessional things. So he got fed up, he left. I also left. So then I started seeing, me and him could see, it's becoming tough in South African football, because obviously he wanted me to grow as my own person in coaching. So I started looking for jobs outside the country, and through a journalist in South Africa who was friends with the agent in London. So they started looking for jobs for me. And it took about 6 months or almost a year, nothing. And then all of a sudden, I had like 3 or 4 offers. The one in Vietnam, there was one in Taiwan, national coach, and there was one in somewhere in Europe, a small island, Malta. So I just told that guy in England, I said, hey, whoever sends me the ticket first, I'm just fed up, I'm going. Within 2 days, I get a call. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning from Vietnam, you know, the time difference. So I was shocked, like those days was no cell phone, you know, the house phone. And they said, no, the guy couldn't even speak English properly. No, we want you to come 2 days. I said, yeah, no problem. I didn't even think. 2 days later, the ticket was there. I didn't know the agent, he negotiated everything. When I got there, I said, even my mom and them were worried. They said, you're going so far. That country, there was war. I said, but football is my life, and you know, there's nothing happening here. So I need to, and that time I was still married, but it was tough, you know, when you're not working. So I went. When I got there, I see, no, the contract was agreed with that guy. The money wasn't what I expected, but the conditions, everything. So I told him, look, I'm not going to accept this contract. I will go back. But I had work to do. I said, no, let me finish with this job. After 2 months, even if you don't pay me, I'll go. Then for 2 months, we're negotiating. Then they said, no, look, because the contract is like this, it's government, you know, it's a socialist country, it's agreed, it comes from government. Then they upped all my allowances, food allowance, entertainment allowance, what, to make it up there. Then I said, okay, I'll stay. Then I had an issue with that Portuguese guy who was the technical director, because he was leaving the club to be the national coach. He had taken the job as caretaker for national coach. He did well, so everyone wanted him. So he got greedy when now he's supposed to sign a contract as national coach. He got greedy, asked for more money, and they refused. So he came back to the club, and I was there to replace him. So the chairman was a bit in a fix. He says, no, coach, don't worry. We're still going to get rid of this guy. Just work with him for a while. But I could see, you know, Mnungu from Europe, and he had that thing, you come from Africa, you're coming to take my job, and what. And what made it worse is, and this is where I'm going to bring you in there, we came for a pre-season tour to South Africa, that club. And this guy fought with me and the boss because he wanted to take the club to either Brazil or Portugal. So the boss said, no, we've never been to Africa. Plus, we'll have a chance of seeing players to recruit. So the boss insisted, no, let's listen to Sudesh. Let's go to South Africa. So I arranged, the team came here. We were camping in Durban. We played AmaZulu, Maritzburg United, and one second division team. Then on the way back, you were Chiefs. Ted was the Chiefs that time. I think we were leaving the Tuesday or the Wednesday, flying back. So I asked Ted, hey, one game before we leave, and you guys played in Cape Town that weekend. I think it was Santos or what. And then on Monday, we made a game at the old Rand Stadium. And that's where I must tell South Africa, Junior did something in that game. Up to today, I can't explain what you did. I don't know if you remember.
I think they fought.
We played, yeah, but it's something you did with Ebola, what. All I did, because you must know that time I was having this beef with that coach. So he was handling the team. I was just there because I organized all the logistics. So I was standing next to the bench. And what he had done on that trip, it was pre-season, he brought about 8 or 10 Brazilian players. So he told the boss, no, we're going to test them out, see which are the good ones we keep. The others will loan them out. So in the second half, I think he had about 6 or 7 Brazilian players playing. And you were playing there because Ted rested some of the first team guys. Obviously, they played the day before. But he still put a good team. Even I think Shoes played a few minutes. But you were the main player there. And yo, Junior, you did something. If someone can ask me to explain, I can't. All I know, it was towards the bench. You know the old Rand Stadium, remember? Where the benches were, it was gravel. And this Brazilian play, you were facing the bench, you were close to the touch line. But going towards their goal, there was this Brazilian player was a attacker was coming from this side. There was another 2 players coming from that side. So like 3 players were coming to you, but you had your back to them. You were close to the bench. You did something there, and I know that Brazilian player was a striker. He came with speed because he wanted to kick you. He's like that. He's not that skillful Brazilian. You know those strikers, those tough ones, who power. And I think you could see during the game what you were doing. So he was coming to you to kick you. But I think you had vision to see. You must know you were looking, you had vision behind you, side of you, left and right. You had 3 players, 2 coming from the left, he coming from the right. But your back was to all of them. You did something there. Hey, guys, I can't explain it. All I seen is the dust. You know, by the bench.
And the game end immediately.
Yeah, because those guys went sliding into the bench.
The coach
Then this coach, the Portuguese guy, went crazy and with some of the brothers, no, you can't do this. You embarrassed. Me, although it was my team, I fought. I said, no. And then Doctor was assistant to Ted. Doctor came running and Doctor supported him. He says, no. He told this coach, what are you talking about? Me in the World Cup qualifier, we're playing Ghana, I stood on the ball. I said, yeah, this is our culture. I said, coach, you must respect what did he said, no, it's disrespectful. I said, how is disrespect when that guy was coming to kick him? What must he do? But I can tell you, I wish that day there were cameras there. And I saw Ted getting up. And you know when Ted loses his mind. And Ted doesn't like these other Mlungus from Europe. Ted came, he started swearing, no. Then we dropped the game. I didn't even go back with them in the team bus.
Is it?
The next day we were flying back to Vietnam. I didn't go back to the team bus. I went back to my sister's house. She stays in Kensington. They were there. I went with my sister and them. The next morning, I didn't see them. The team manager phoned me. He says, no, the big boss heard about it. You can take a few days. You can come back next week. When I went back, when I went back the following week, things were calmed down. Even he cooled down. And you know what surprised me, Junior? When we played Amazulu, Skara was playing for Amazulu. He actually admired Skara. He says, Sudesh, how can we take this player? I can take him now to Sporting or Benfica in Portugal. He says, this guy is out of this world. So when we got back, he was a bit cooled down. We went out for dinner and a drink. We were talking. I said, coach, he actually apologized. He says, no, maybe my behavior. He says also, you know why? I was actually trying to market myself there. Because he wanted to come to South Africa, you know, and he knows that Chiefs is a big club and what. He says, no, I lost it, and in front of my players, the Brazilian players. I said, but you know what makes African and South African players special? I said, you told me about Skara. I didn't tell you anything. We played Amazulu, a friendly. He says, the player that stood head and shoulders above everyone was Skara. He said, even now, I can take Skara to Portugal. Skara will become one of the best players in Europe because he has something special. Yeah. So I said, you were telling me that a week ago, and now the game happens. You look at what Junior, and I told him Junior is one of our young, exceptional talent in South Africa. Then he calmed down. But then, you know, the Brazilian players, Junior, and this is where I think racism and society has oppressed people. Because Brazil society is like South Africa with the colonization, apartheid. The Brazilian players were there, mainly the mixed race of the black Brazilian players. So what was happening in Vietnam, there were 2 groups of players, all the team, the African players and Brazilian players. So there was rivalry because everyone is fighting for umsebenzi. They want to play and they want to be signed. So what happened was at another club, in training, a Brazilian player kicked a Ugandan player. But he kicked him purposely to break his leg, you know, because he was his competition for lineup. So other African players, they said, coach, you are the only one we could turn. Players from other clubs, African players, they said, coach, you're the only one we could talk to, but it's becoming very bad. Before it was in games, but now it's going into training. So I had to think of something, because in my club were 2 Brazilian and 2 African players, and we got on well. So I did a lot of homework research in internet. I took out stuff, about the slave trade, how people from Africa went to Brazil. That's why Brazilian players have this skill and creativity, and they're black or mixed race. So one weekend we're off. I called all of them to a nice pub in the city. I bought like 2 cases of beer. So there were about 10 Brazilian players, about 15 African players. First, we were sitting like this. Then I told the bar owner, no, bring some beers. We brought like 2-3 cases of beers. So, after having a few drinks, guys are making jokes and laughing. Then I took out all these papers. I said, guys, Brazilian guys, I said, this is your brother. They said, oh, what? I said, look where your ancestors come from. They come from Africa, especially the part of Angola, Gabon, Cameroon, along that coast, right up to Nigeria. That's where the slaves were taken to Brazil. Mm-hmm. And that's how that society evolved. Mm-hmm. Some of them cried because they said they didn't know this. They thought they were from Europe. I said, but look at your complexion. They said, yeah, in Brazil, we can't talk about these things. We hlukumeza. So, because Brazil, the majority of the population is black. There's just the minority is from Portugal and but they control everything. So once we started explaining, I said, no, but this is your brother. How can you treat him? The guy who kicked the other guy's leg actually cried. He said, coach, I didn't know. And he was a light-skinned Brazilian. I said, you even got mixed race. You've got Mlungu from Portugal. You've got African blood. You've got, they have these indigenous Indians in South America. I said, you've got all of that in you. But because you are light skinned, you have blue eyes, you don't really know the past. He says, no, I didn't know about this.
So deep.
So, after that, we became like that, Junior. We went out to the nightclub, about 10, 15 of us. We had fun. Even there were some late at night, 3 in the morning or we went to eat somewhere as a group. And there was these pickpockets or wanted to hlukumeza one guy. We all went as a group to help that guy. So it's so important, these things. But coming back to what you did that day, I don't know. Do you still know what you did?
I can't remember. But the only thing I know, at the office they called me. I remember. They said, now I'm going to play from now on. Actually, I'm going to start the games.
Is
because they were the technical team, everyone. Because I was just promoted, got promoted.
You just got promoted. And that time Ted and I used to communicate. And Ted was telling me, yo, Sudesh, there's this youngster you must see. And then that day when you played. But I'm saying, do you still remember that trick you did?
No, I can't, coach. Huh? I can't.
Yeah, because that shows what creativity is. Because you might never do it again. But because the situation demanded it. All I know is I seen dust up like this here. The other guy going into the bench, boom.
I remember when they showed in the E-News that Coach Ted fought in the friendly.
Oh, it came out in the news?
Yes, and it was big, Coach. You remember the fights there on the bench.
Because I left a few days after that.
Yeah. So, Coach, I'm going to ask this again, and you always mentioning in the way structure. Junior.
Yeah, development.
Development structure. Why so much in that?
Let me put it this way, Junior. When we are like human nature, I get from young, nowadays it's modern. They go to creche, primary school, high school, if you have imali or something, to university. So why should football be different? I get it's a process. So football should be, there's no shortcuts. So football development takes anywhere between 7 to 12 years. You can't cut corners. Yes, you'll get exciting talent here and there, but somewhere or the other they'll be short. Psychologically, somewhere, physically, they might not be able to. They'll be short somewhere because they didn't go to the full scale of development. And this is where in Europe, they beat us, and in Brazil, because they take development seriously. Those players are well developed. Especially, I think the closest we could look to is Spain and Brazil. Brazil, they don't take out the skill and creativity from the players as they're developing. Once you reach 18, 19, it is sealed. You can go to Europe, they can enhance you tactically, like Vinny and them, but they don't take out that skill. Europe, on the other hand, they tactically they can move, physically, all of that. But very few of them have
What Brazilian they have?
Ishugel, very few. The closest, the Spanish guys, but they know how to use. Even to them, they don't have too much. But because they keep possession, they keep pass, move, they make it look mnandi, I don't know if you watched last night, Milan and Real Madrid and Liverpool.
I did was the second half.
You will see one or two players. There was the Moroccan player, Brahim Diaz, he can go. The other young Turkish boy, Adi Gula, very skillful. But I think Real Madrid, when they don't have the Brazilians, they are lacking something there. In Liverpool, you have Salah. He's not the most skillful, but he tries to take on. They have the other South American Diaz. They can take on players,
Yes.
So those are the things that make the difference. You know yourself, at top level of football, the only thing that makes a difference between two similar teams is individual brilliance. And that's what we have in abundance in South Africa. But what we don't have is to respect the process. Because people, I hate when TV analysts, the other day I was telling Stiger and Teko, when you guys are doing this game, don't use that term showboating because it's wrong. There's no such word as showboating. I mean, in indigenous language, in vernac, is there a word for showboating?
No.
Have you heard a word for?
No.
It's mnandi or something. What we should be coaching players is how to use that effectively, not to use it just for injury, to use it positively. Yes, December tournaments we all go for fun, to enjoy. It's a kind of entertainment. They are not playing for Champions League or whatever, or World Cup. So we go there to have fun. Players express themselves. They just feel free because it's festive time. There's music. There's people. That's okay. But when we're looking at professional football, we got to train our players or coach our players. Use that, but use it effectively. I mean, look at Rele, how he's doing. Look at the boy Nkota. Look at one or two of the boys at Chiefs, Shabalala. But I still feel at Chiefs, there's a lot of talent amongst the younger boys, but there's just nothing coming together there. A lot of players are not of Chiefs quality. South African football needs a good Kaizer Chiefs. You played.
Yes, true.
African football needs a good Kaizer Chiefs. And this is where I think Chiefs for the last 5, 6, 7 or 10 years, it hasn't been what it was, And I wish more clubs, I'm glad to see at least now, slowly some clubs are starting to use young players. But I think we need to embrace our skill, That's why I was surprised the other day with Sundowns, the lineup when they went to play the team from DRC. I mean, you're playing in Champions League, you're playing at home, and then you change the whole team around virtually. And some of those players they brought are not of Sundowns quality. That's Saavedra, Salas, whatever. They are not of that quality, There's rather Mkulisi on the bench. Why don't you put him on? Because the Congolese guys are big, strong. Bring someone who can take them on.
Who's so skillful, creativity as well, yeah.
That's what you need, So I think in South Africa, development, we need to respect the process. There's no shortcuts. What Spain is enjoying now, it's hard work they put in 10, 20 years ago. There's no shortcuts. When I was in Asia, the country who does things the right way is Japan. And look how Japan dominates. And look at the size of Japanese players. You'll never find them playing a long ball. They keep the ball on the ground because they respect their nature. They are short, they are agile, they are quick. And now you look at how many Japanese players are playing in Europe. Men and women. The women won the World Cup before the men. They won the Senior Ladies World Cup. They won the Under-20 Women's World Cup. So these are countries who are progressive-minded, So you look at Pirates now. I think Pirates, if Rivero keeps doing what he's doing, are going to surprise a lot of teams.
Coach, I'm going to ask this. Where do you see the standard of football now compared to previously? Are we improving? Are we going backwards? It's a question just.
Sure. Is that a trick question? You want to get me in trouble?
Yeah. So
I think no, performance-wise, okay, let me put it this way. Are there a lot of people going to watch games?
That's a powerful answer.
And the thing is, if they're not going to watch games, why are they not going to watch games? Because at the end of the day, we need to realize football is entertainment. I mean, the top clubs and countries in the world show you can combine both to entertain and win.
Yes.
The top, the Barcelona, Man City, Spain, national team, Brazil, they win and they entertain. But we think in South Africa, no, to win is only one way, just get the ball quickly. We don't realize that, no, we can still play who as we are. I mean, look how everyone respects us in Africa. Look at Bafana when they played in AFCON. We had the coach in the studio, Hugo Bruce. He was telling us on the line when they played Nigeria in the semi-final. The Nigerian coach was scared. He was telling his players to come and defend. And imagine that's Nigeria, the Super Eagles. That's why the players and the administration, they fired that coach. But he was scared of South Africa, of what our players were doing. But yet we don't respect ourselves. Why? So we need that. We need to bring that factor back. You look at from the days you were playing, even before that, the grounds used to be full. Why are the festive tournaments full and the organized football, professional football, not full? That should be telling you there's something. Yes, I know there's pressure on coaches to win, but you can still win by doing the right thing, you know. We know that they're going to say, you're going to be fired if you don't win. But believe in your players. Don't just make players robots, you know, on the field. No, Junior, Mark, come, defend, pass. Let players think. Players are human beings. Your work as a coach is Monday to Friday in training. That's your job as a coach. Weekend, let the players dance. That's their job there. Let them think because they're human beings. But we need to, as coaches, I always say, we need to teach players how to think. When I say this, I talk about in football terms because the players are the ones who are playing the game. The players must find solutions in the game. You can't control them by remote to say, no, Junior, now you need to move. Or when you have the ball at your feet, like that example I told you, 3 guys were coming to mark you. No coach can tell you what to do. The coach, if a coach is not knowledgeable, he'll tell Junior, kick the ball away. But you knew what to do. You did that. 3 of them went into the bench. You turned and you went toward the goal. So we need to teach players how to think, use their ability, use their skill, because the game is very complicated. People don't realize that. You know, as a player, when you're in that field, there's a million things in your mind. Do I pass? Do I run? Do I move? Do I dribble? What? You got to think of the opposition. Think of your teammates, the weather, the field conditions, the referee, the time, the fans. There's millions of things. In a split second, you got to make a decision. So if in training, we as coaches don't teach you how to think in those situations, because those situations will come in a match and you must find the quickest and the best solution. So I think the coaching in South Africa and Africa, we have to go to another level. We have to, and the thing is, we have to, as coaches, we have to realize we are African first. We are South African. Everyone wants to be a Pep and a Klopp and a Mourinho or whatever. You can't be better than them. But you can be the best junior you can be. So we need to identify who we are as South African. And this I'm talking about coaches. And respect who you are and look at, okay, who are my players? What is the typical South African player? The typical South African player is medium height or even short. He's very skillful, very creative. He can move. You know, football is not about running marathons. Football is that quick, short sprint. 5 meter, 10 meter, 20, 30 meter. That's where our South African players are very good at. Look at Hugo Bruce. He comes from that side, but he quickly learned. He learned the hard way. He learned that, no, man, let me respect the strengths of South African players and let them play accordingly. And he doesn't interfere. Rivero is doing the same at Paris. Our local coaches, what's happening? Right? Yet it should be our local coaches leading the way to say, no, let's embrace the skills and talents, the nature of South African players. We have destroyed too much talent in this country. Too much. It's painful.
Coach, you are so deep, man. Knowledge, I mean, Mhlambe people they thinking with ma when I talk of you, yes, you know, Ted told me about you, and then I start to know about you. But Mahlatsi spoke about you when he was here. Mahlatsi Makhodwa said a person was doing behind job and not even on camera because we don't like to be on camera, but the knowledge I know. So, coach, I'm gonna ask this, and I believe I need the question that it's a bit trickery, but I have to ask, and I'm asking so many people that comes here, but I'm gonna ask in a different way. Coach, first the question that I'm gonna ask: do you believe in this thing is social media? Number one, the social media thing, is it a good thing? Players they need to post because I see players banokvela live on Instagram. Yesterday we were in Student Disc TV, myself, Sovila was Lindo Pep, this boy, and Nobobo, Shane Kululego. And we're talking about the players. This boy Lindo has got another show about TTP. If not mistaken, Uti, they were players, when you check, they were online about 3 o'clock, posting live videos in the morning. And I've got nothing against that. Do you believe football players need to have this thing as social media or give it to other people to run for them? Another question that I'm having, coach. Do you believe in this thing, I'm a player, would they need to be committed so early? It's not a must, I know, to find a partner. I won. And I hear any questioning now. I hear you were talking about you buying booze for players to take them out. Yeah. And it's rare to find coaches who does that. Would you let me entertain my players about buying booze? And not in a bad way. You were trying to make which would boss this card. You knew their time. Now it's working. You don't emphasize that. But as far as I understand, and or you wanted players to, because maybe we need changing room. It's very important to win a changing room, as far as I understand as well. Those are my questions that I'm having to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, especially now in the current situation in South African football. I think on social media, I think you answered it there. If it's managed properly, then it's okay. You know, I think we need, because now you get a lot of youngsters who, I'm not talking the ones who play football, others who go to university, study sound, they study technology, whatever. Can be your neighbor, a Lokshin or whatever. He knows more about that technology than we know. Bring him on board and say, you know what, hey man, out. How about advising me to create content, to manage my social media? I mean, you look at one of the, it's not only a sports star, globally, the guy who's got the biggest following on social media is who?
I think Cristiano what?
Ronaldo. I think it's reached 1 billion already, if not from anyone. So, I mean, that alone tells you. But it's got people managing that. And they know how to, because manage that for two aim. To propel your career in the right way on the field, but also to give a good image of the field so that you have commercial opportunities. So companies out there can see, hey, man, Junior is doing well, he's playing well, he's managing his social media. Let's get involved with him. Let him endorse our product, you know. So we need to look at that. So we can't just say, no, leave it out, you know. If it's done in the right way, and there's a lot of youngsters now who are, or even young girls who know about, you know, all this social media, how to make clips, how to package it, how to send it out. But yeah, as you say now, somebody at 3 a.m. and you're going to train in 8 or 9 o'clock. So it's not managed properly. I'll give you an example of Neymar. You know, Neymar is managed by his father. But they have a company. They've got over 250 people working for that company, the head office in Brazil. Yes, people will say, okay, he's at that level, he can afford it. But a player playing in PSL now, surely he's got a brother, sister, cousin, a neighbor, a Lokshin, who went to varsity, studied technology, or someone who knows, because all the youngsters now have smartphones. They know how to operate on TikTok, social media, what. Bring one of the youngsters, sit down and say, you know what, how do you think we should do that? But have an idea. Why do you want to do it? What do you want to post? Don't post a picture of, sitting Chisanyama with the guys after training or whatever. You know, try to make it professional because it's your image that you look. You're a brand. You are the person who's going to make money for yourself. So do it in a positive light. So I think social media, if it's managed properly, professionally, there's a huge avenue there for PSL players or young South African players to exploit that. The other part you mentioned about partner, I think it's a very, very good question. And I think this is what happens in Europe and other countries where uh, football players, especially, or sports stars, they get serious into a serious relationship or even married, 25, 26, so they're stable and they focus on their career. Because remember, as a footballer or a sports person, you don't have a long career like somebody working in corporate who can work till 60 or 65 and then retire. You've got 10, 15 years maximum. So you've got to make as much as money to carry you after your career, open businesses. So if you don't do it from early, but then this, Julia, is also tricky because you got to look at society. How do we grow up? What's
Yes,
our family background?
It's very important. People, they don't know that.
So you can't, because we all come from somewhere. We come from societies. And we'll go back to what we said. Most of our players are black players in South Africa. Most of them come from Elokshin or rural areas. And because of our society, it's been such a struggle because Umama has to work. She can't even have time to go and watch her son train or play. Maybe the father is not there. Ugoko is there. So who is there to advise this boy child that, you know what, hey, get serious with one girl, take it easy. So it's a societal thing. There's no answer to say, yes. Ideally, we would love our boys to get, like I was with Villa the other night. Villa is one of the most calmest guys, because it looks like he had that support structure. He got married early. He settled down well. A lot of other players, even me, my life, as much as I got through football, I also moshered my life. I got divorced, whatever, because at that time, football was not bringing in income. My ex-wife couldn't handle it. And, it was just struggle after struggle. But I couldn't give up on football. And I suffered a lot. But the thing is, it's my kids who suffered because they were starting to be at that age, finishing school. They wanted to go and study at university. And I couldn't do that. So it's painful because, like, as a parent, you also feel as a failure because you couldn't take care of your kids well enough, So as much as there's a good part of football, there's also the negative part because people like you and I, we put our whole life into the game. It's the only thing I know. Many people ask me about Sudesh, why you like a normal Indian guy, you can run a business, you can be. Yes, I could have taken that angle, but it's football that possessed me and took me over, and it's still the number one in my life, and hence my family life was a disaster. I got divorced. My kids had to struggle. So that is something the pain I have to live with forever. That I failed as a father, but we can't have everything we want in life.
True. People they need to know. Yeah, people need to know that. It's so profound and powerful, Coach. And Coach, I'm gonna ask this. I've got two questions for you. Lastly, thank you for having you, one of the knowledgeable coach. If I see you, Mina like want to type, like I said, but it's best if people they need to hear from you. I think it's the best thing. Yeah, Coach. The question that I'm having first, where to from Coach Sudesh now? That's a question I'm gonna have. You still wanna be involved coaching any team? Can you coach? Being a head coach or technical director. I know there's a lot going on behind, but people need to know. Another stuff that the question that I'm gonna have for you, I'm gonna ask, can you just give me the best 11, but it should be in Africa? I don't mind you mentioning players, South African players, but most I want to say Africa because I believe you were engaged with African football. Yeah, those are two questions for me.
Yeah, I think firstly for myself, obviously, now I'm doing work on TV. There's Soccer Africa. We're doing Champions League and stuff like that. But I had also set up my own consultancy 2 years ago because I realized there's people outside South Africa who want services on technical things, how to set up academy, coach education. So one of the big projects I did last year, I was the technical advisor for the guy who's now the Malawi FA president. So when it was election time, I helped him with his manifesto campaign strategy. And I went a couple times to Malawi. I sat with a lot of the senior coaches there, Abo Brakina Piri and those guys. And we designed a strong technical angle, for his election. And he won the elections. He became the president. He's now the president, Fleetwood Hire. Very nice guy, young guy, passionate about the game. So we're going to roll out long term because I told him it's a process, and he knows he's young, he's very smart. He knows that football is not and plus he's a business guy, so he's not in football to make money. So hopefully there's a long term project, but not for me. I will consult and go now and again and advise the guys because they know their football better than me. So that's something. When you come to South African football, unfortunately, me, I was always ready to coach any club. I would just like an environment where it's professional. Don't undermine the responsibility of a coach. Don't come and tell me who must play, who shouldn't play, and what. You know what I mean? If you look at me as a professional, let me do my work in a professional way. Give me the support that's required of that position. Don't look at me as an individual. Look at that position. That position is a head coach position. What are the requirements of that position? And support that person. And let me do the work. Yes, there are mandates. We want you to be in the top 8. We want you to win the league. We want to whatever. But it must be a whole buy-in from everyone. And then the work will happen. If it doesn't happen, you don't need to fire me. I will step down. It's that kind of thing. But as I said, South African football is very complicated. There's these stereotypes where certain people shouldn't be there, or if you are outspoken and you are knowledgeable, others have umona. They'll say, "Hey, this guy will come. He'll expose us here because he knows other things." So even other positions. Years ago, I was talking to people in South Africa and around the continent about the important position of a sport director. Now in Europe, it's a standard thing. A sport director, people don't realize, it's evolved from just a technical director. A sport director now is your link between your technical staff and your board, your chairman or the club boss. So a sport director must have insight into technical aspects. That means coaching, scouting, recruitment, this technology. But he must also be able to sit with corporates in a boardroom and talk business, marketing, sponsorship, all of that. So you need that well-rounded. That's why in Europe, that position is so valuable. Sport directors now have become the most sought after because there's so few good ones. So a sport director in a club, he's the one, he sits with the board and the bosses and say, okay, what is our vision for next 2-3 years? What's our vision for 10 years? Where do we want to be as a club? What is the history of the club? Where do we come from? And then you design the philosophy for the club. Two philosophy. Off the field, how the club should be run administratively, marketing, right down to the person who's cutting the grass and whatever. And then on the field, how do we want to play? What's the history of our club? How will we always play? What kind of players we need to scout and recruit? Then you oversee that. You, as sport director, you oversee the first team coaching and the academy, because the academy is the one that must produce players for the first team. So that's a position I feel I'm so well suited to because I've had experience in all these things. Even with Ted, when we started the Sundowns Academy, it was me and him. So we sat and he said, Sudesh, you are the first person here with me. What position do you want? Do you want to be the head coach? You want to be? I said, no, you know what? We have an opportunity here. We have a good boss in Patrice Motsepe who has a big vision, good resources. It's our opportunity to bring in like-minded. Not that we're friends. I mean, Zippo, Dan, and others. We're not friends. We don't socialize. But we have the same mentality. So I said, no, we have an opportunity. Let's bring in these guys. So we brought in Dan. Dan was free. Zippo was still working at the Technicon in Durban. He had to give notice. He came in. And slowly we built up that team. Eventually other guys like Floyd Mohale came on, you know. So when the team was settled with the good, so I used to do all the things behind the scenes. From that Pak Tawana team, I scouted and recruited about 70 to 80% of those players. Dan brought Matlasi, but I brought in guys like Keegan Dolly, Sienda Kulu, Jabu Shongwe, a lot of players that I brought. Yeah. So that was my job, to go and scout. I used to go and watch youth games, senior games, whatever, just watch games, scout, recruit, go to the parents, where and talk, sign these players, bring them. So once that setup was okay, as I said, then Patrice asked me, no, come to the next stage. So I feel I have maybe one of the few in South Africa or in Africa have this well-rounded experience of from coaching side, scouting side, the commercial side. There's a commercial deal many people don't know. Myself, Brian Baloy, and the top sponsorship guy, Squilly Kumede. We're the ones who took the Hollywood Bets deal to SAFA. And then there was politics there, and we got hit. So I also learned from that side, because Squilly Kumede is a close friend of mine. We have a social club, football club. There's a lot of corporate guys. One of my close friends, Monde Twala, is the CEO of BET Africa, you know. So we sit after football, have a few drinks, talk. So you learn from these guys about the corporate side and commercial side. So I feel I have that kind of expertise that can be beneficial to a big club or a country. I was offered technical director jobs in some of the other countries, but also got to look at whether it's viable or worthwhile to go to. Sometimes you go to a country where you can see they don't have a long-term future, you know, or they wouldn't really achieve much. So you got to also think of yourself. You know, here, yes, you can
the value of you.
You can collect a salary and be okay for the rest of your life, but are you going to achieve something? You know, so there are some countries I'm still in talks with. In West Africa, Nigeria, I'm very close to people there in the FA. The head coach now, Austin, is the technical director. There were talks that, no, he wanted me to come on board for the qualifiers to assist behind the scenes. I did similar thing for Zambia in 2019 for the AFCON qualifiers. I was a technical advisor for the national team. So I'm very flexible because of the experiences I've built up over the years in South Africa, in Africa, in Asia, travel to Europe. So the network is globally, you know. It's just that I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, the TV work. But you know, you still miss that the field, you know. If you love the ball, you love the ball.
Yeah, coach, I'm gonna bring you to my academy. As sometimes I ask you to come just to guide them, man. I'm willing to learn people like you. In our first impression it last. There's something that I've learned from Coach Ted, Coach Farouk. Because it's more or less similar like you, Coach Farouk, Coach Ted. But then I came at Alex. You brought me at Alex Tawan with Ted. We're supposed to sign Sundowns. People, they don't know. We trained 3 months in this Fagegu. I think it was me and Skara. You brought us there. Skara, yeah, the deal fell through last minute. People were about to be travel in my respect, faking an injury.
No, there were people behind the scenes who sabotaged that.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another
day.
And
Coach, well done. And thank you for coming to me. I mean, you're such a big person. I wish South Africa can, you know, people like you, Coach, suffer. I think suffer. I want to suffer, if they were honest and straightforward. But who I am to say it? But I'm going to say it. Yeah, people like you, in South African football, if you can be employed there without this thing about mandate. Yes, they can give you 20, maybe mandate 20 years. And about Coach Dance, Coach Zippo, very knowledgeable as well. Yeah, about Coach Farouk, if they can bring you there. I also respect other coaches, Bonabo, Floyd Mohale. The list goes on. So people like you, if man about South African football and give it time, relax. Coach, I can tell you, not in PSL because football for the wrong reason, all right? They come in there to be seen, which is, I've got nothing against that. He's a business person. You need to respect that. I've got a big respect for other people. But into mina engizilwelayo coach mina when I'm given platform. I know ukuthi ngisitha sabantu abaningi, but people they see it abanye. We as a country, I believe, coach, in the next coming 10 years, give it 5, 7 years, 8 years, as we should football for coach for society football like event.
Yeah.
We can win AFCON. I believe we can win World Cup. We can if Morocco go to semi-final World Cup, the direction
and they had no outstanding player.
Yeah,
they were just a team who plays.
You see, so marabanta bayizwisisa coach lento engikhulumayo. We are so talented. Nama was the eyes opener when I met Abu Coach Abanjang Abu Ted, Abu Coach Abanjang Abu for meet people like you. Behind the scene, I start learning we are so talented. Asna, we are not tall. We just give born with the talent. So, Coach, thank you, man, for coming. And I wish this is going to be educational on and off the field to people. And we really appreciate it. But la it's a round two melu coach. I think we'll look at next year. But lastly, just mention I want the best African 11 for you, and then Saivala coach.
You know, June, I've been exposed to so many players, so many. And
just choose.
A lot of them are actually my close friends, and then they'll say, well, now you don't, you left me out or what.
Yeah, but they need to understand the only level.
And there's different eras, Yabon.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it difficult, because and you can't compare eras, because someone 10 years ago was great in his time. 10 years later, there's Pele, there's Messi. You can't compare them, because it's different eras.
Yeah, coach, just the best 11. Whoever left outside, around number 2.
I think for me, goalkeeper, I think someone who had the talent, he didn't have enough opportunities. He could have really made it abroad. Brian Beloy, he had so much.
True. Played with him, yeah.
Brian, and I think Khune would come very close to him, so the defenders, sure, you put me under pressure. Late season down, he was a star, overlapping fullback. Iwi Kambule on the other side, Lucas in the center, OJ Mabizela, midfield, Mabega Panzi. Ace and Shoes, or bringing other guys from other countries. JJ Okocha,
Austin,
JJ Okocha, is similar to you. I mean, you look at his size and what skill, and the average Nigerian is those big guys, but JJ was something special. Very same to you. JJ. Positions, no. Maybe I just named players.
Yeah.
Samuel Eto'o was on another level. I mean, you can't compare him to. He did it at every club, scored every club. And then you go back to Roger Miller, Abadi Pele, then locally, Mark Williams used to score goals. I remember when I was coaching in Vietnam, he was playing in China. There was a game I watched on TV. They were losing 4-1 or 5-1. He scored 5 goals second half. They won 6-5. So, there were so many great players. Benny was great. Too much.
Yeah, coach, I know. Yeah, no, coach, thank you for coming. Coach, I really much appreciate. And such a big cost learning coaches and also players. Also, the big business people need to learn. I made about solid pride. Thank you for coming, coach. I'm so humble.
Junior, just to close off, thanks a lot. And I want to say I'm really grateful. I'm humbled and I'm privileged to be given this opportunity. To the guys who work this side also, it's lovely being here. Your story is a beautiful story, and I think that's why we need to be supportive. There are a lot of ex-players out there that need assistance in some way or the other. Let's be there for them. Yes, we can't support everyone financially, but we can support. But I think as society, we need to to come together. Asiyekele umona, yabona. Umona is killing us.
Yes.
Umona, whether it's society, family, friends, football, umona is the thing that kills South Africa and Africa. If we can, you look at Europe, other nations or what, they are like this, they come together. They build each and other. I think we need to see, and if football for me is always the right tool, let's use football to hlanganisa like-minded people. And then we build society, because we don't want our kids and grandkids when they grow up and they say, what did my father, grandfather do? They were there, they did nothing. Yabona. So we need to start now. Let our kids grow up in a positive environment. Ngiyabonga mfethu.
It's so powerful, coach. Hey, powerful kakhulu. Yeah, I know bafethu siyabonga kakhulu. Don't forget to subscribe. We're going for 10K almost. Yeah, only 3 months. We thank the support. Thanks to WSP for sponsoring us as well. But obviously, we're looking to expand. Yeah, Tina, we're looking at abandabas of funders. The channel is growing, and coaches they said the more nati ungulungula sipamandla people, and then obviously we invite other people to work together. If you change somebody's life, maybe we as people we grow, not only in football but in life general. So Junior Khanye himself, Junior KHANYE KHOHLWA, Fanase 1520, Dave John Vuta. Yeah, I know Nyabong. Don't forget hashtag World Sport Betting, hashtag Bet with the best. Then Amanje on. Singh